Hi everyone, it's Pastor Dressler here. There's been a lot of talk in the news and online lately about schools and reopening, reentry plans. So we thought maybe this is a good time for us to have another edition of our up close and personal. Those of you that are new to our school, if I haven't had a chance to meet with you yet, as I said, my name's Pastor Dressler. I'm the one who's very blessed to be the principal of SML Christian Academy, and we really look forward to your students joining us this school year. So, what's going on? Well, we've been spending a lot of time prepping, getting ready for a new school year to begin. And that's some of what we want to talk to you about today and kind of fill you in on some of the questions you may have about this next year. Just to back up a little bit, you may remember at the end of the school year, Alberta Ed was talking about three possible scenarios for the fall. And just to remind everyone what they are, the first scenario, scenario one, is referred to as in class, and that's students back in class learning in person and with, of course, various protocols for their safety, health protocols in place, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But that's scenario one, and this is the one that Alberta Ed has deemed that we are ready for, that this is how we will begin the school year. Scenario two is a blended situation where you are dividing the classes in half, and half of them are in class and half of them are learning from home, and then they alternate, they switch spots. Scenario two, blended. So that the idea there is, of course, to have not as many students in the school at the same time, but to spread them out, which of course has some advantages and some challenges to it as well. Scenario three is full remote learning, which is what we ended the school year on. The last 3 months of our last school year were done through remote learning, where the students are at home and the teacher is either at their home or at the school and teaching them online as best they can. That it's a possibility that any time in the school year we may need to switch from one of these scenarios to another. So while we are at home, while we are in class at the beginning of the year, that does not mean necessarily that the entire year will play out that way. We just don't know. If there is some sort of outbreak in our area or even within the school, then Alberta Health will direct us to a different scenario, scenario two or scenario three. That may happen with just a particular class or a group of classes, or it's possible for the whole school, depending on the situation. So it's hard to say in advance until things begin to unfold. But I just want to make everyone aware, just because we're starting the year in class doesn't necessarily mean that the entire year will be in class. We hope that's the case. The best learning happens in person, but we have to be ready for every situation. And that's our job as staff, as administrators, as a school board, to put measures in place so we are prepared for all three of these scenarios. And we are. We spent a lot of time on scenario one, but also scenario two and three we are prepared for. Okay, you may remember back in July 21st, the government put out some information for schools, for parents, and this document is there. This is the first page of that document, but it's guidance for school reentry. So these are the protocols that Alberta Ed and Alberta Health have put forward that they expect schools to follow and to adapt for their particular situation. So our school has taken this document and we've had a real close look at it, and we've come up with our own document that augments that particular document. So breaks it down into various situations that apply specifically to our school. So these documents are meant to be held up one beside the other. We'll make the links available down below the video for these two documents. You should have received this one on your screen. It was sent out by email a couple days ago. But I'll also put the link there for that so that you have it. So as I said, this document, it basically says this is how at SML Christian Academy we will put those protocols in place, because every school is a little bit different, even in terms of its physical structure and layout. So this is how we'll be carrying them out. I'd like to highlight a few of those and just talk about them in a little more depth. General building safety. Well, this year, as long as COVID is a threat and as long as we are in classes, we plan to hire someone whose job will be to go around the school throughout the day and just sanitize, keep sanitizing throughout the day. So particularly any high-touch areas, doorknobs, handrails, handles, toilets, those sorts of things, they will be sanitizing those throughout the day. And from 9 till 3, that person will be going around. So again, this wasn't something that when we set our budget up way back in March that we budgeted for, but we do feel that it is important in terms of having a very safe environment. So that's one of the changes you'll see. Also, we're removing some items from rooms, particularly microwaves. Those are a high-touch item, and they're a bit more of a luxury, not a necessity. So as long as COVID is an issue, the microwaves will not be in the rooms, just to help prevent the spread. And surfaces that are hard to sanitize, like area rugs. A lot of our younger classes have area rugs for their reading nooks or their meeting places. Those are great, but for right now, we need to get rid of them. So we will be rolling them up and storing them for now, because partly because we also need that space, as we'll be talking about shortly. Screening. Everyone who attends the school, be it a student or a staff, will be expected to do some self-screening before they come to school. So this will become a daily thing, and we will provide you with a copy of what to look for. But you've probably heard a lot of this already, and certainly if you've been to a place like a doctor or dentist's office, you've already gone through this screening. You know, do you have a cough? Do you have a fever? Do you have a runny nose? These sorts of things. So this will become part of our practice, where we expect each person, or in the case of younger students, parents to do this on their behalf, is to do some screening of the student and staff as well. And if any of these symptoms are there, you should not be coming to school for that day. And we want to be overly cautious and make sure that this virus isn't spread. So if people are having symptoms, in the past we would kind of just tough it out, just get through the day. We need to change our thinking on that for the sake of each other. Cohorting. Cohorting is, meeting in a group. A cohort is a group. And, schools, particularly in the last couple decades, have encouraged mixing of classes and such. And if you're in the bigger schools, you tend to have a lot more mixing of classes. This is maybe one area where we're blessed in being a smaller school, is that we have one class per grade, one teacher per grade. So we're already naturally cohorting in some ways. Now, we did in the past sometimes pair up classes. Our grade 9s would come and read to our grade 1s, or our grade 2s would go into the grade 8 class, and the grade 8s would type out their story for them because the grade 2s can't type yet. Those kinds of things are great, and it's wonderful to mix the kids, and they learn so much from each other that way. But for the time being, we won't be doing that. That again, we're just trying to keep the cohorts in their own group, and not create areas where others can be exposed. So that's a small change for us, but not a major change, because we are a small school. It's very easy for us to stay in our various cohorts. Also, physical distancing. So in the past, you'd have students like the ones here where they are put together in little groups or pods, and that won't be the case while COVID is an issue. We will be taking our desks and spreading them out as much as physically possible within the room. Under scenario 1, we aren't required to have that 2-meter distance, but it does ask us to create as much distance as possible between the students. So this is why we're also getting rid of, temporarily, area rugs, couches, that sort of thing, to give us more space for desks and move them apart as much as possible. Where we have tables, we'll be having dividers, physical dividers between the students on those tables. Again, this is where it's nice to be part of a smaller school with smaller class sizes. Some of our classes right now, our grade 7 class, I think, has 16 students in it. Well, that gives you lots of room to move and spread those students apart. The biggest classes we have 24 students. That's where we cap our classes. So our classes do not go above 24 students, which is helpful. You hear on the radio and maybe on social media about some teachers saying, how am I supposed to physically distance 35 kids in a classroom? Yeah, that is a concern, absolutely. But because we're able to maintain our classes to a maximum of 24, that allows us to be able to spread them out a little more easily. A few changes with drop-off and pickup. Now, traditionally, we've always really welcomed parents into the school, and we really do encourage a strong relationship and interactions between parents and staff and students. But for right now, we really need to limit who comes into the school. So we're asking parents, unless you have to be in the school for a very specific reason, not to be coming in at this time. We'll make an exception, of course, for Meet the Teacher Night and the first couple days of school, especially for little guys, making sure that they can get to their room, and we'll have the parents help with that. But once we start getting into things, we don't want a situation where we have a lot of people mulling about. If parents need to come into the school for a particular reason, then they need to check in with the office and go through some protocols at the office before going to the classroom. So we're just trying to, again, limit the exposure of the virus among people. Okay, this is something that was brand new, just brought up at the press conference the other day, is the wearing of masks. The new guidelines are that students from grades 4 to 12, in our case grades 4 to 9, will be required to wear a mask, as well as staff members will be required to wear masks. The younger students, kindergarten to grade 3, are not required to wear them, although if they want to, they certainly can. That's no problem with that. The exception to the mask rule is when students are in their classroom, seated in their desks. So we're talking more controlled environment where they are distanced apart from each other as much as we can. In that case, the students can remove their masks during the regular class time. But if they need to get up and do something, or if, say, a teacher needs to come in close and let's say a student is having a problem with their Chromebook and they need the teacher to look at it, in that case, both the student and the teacher would don their masks because they're coming into closer proximity. So this will take some adjusting. The other day I was at the dentist's office and I think I have my mask on upside down. I don't know. There's definitely a bit of a learning curve and getting used to wearing some of these things around here for that time. So something we'll have to think about and work on, but again, it's for the benefit of everyone involved. All of this is all about safety, staying safe and helping each other out. And as staff members, we'll try to do our best to follow these protocols, but do it in a loving, caring way and get the students used to those sorts of things. And really, the staff will be taking it seriously. We won't be sloughing off these protocols, even for our very own sake. Most of us are in a higher risk situation than the students of the school, so we want to be safe just as much as we want the students to be safe. So that's why these protocols are so important for everyone. Okay, well, what if we do have someone, be it a staff or a student, that either say test positive or is coming down with these symptoms? Well, then our guidelines direct them to Alberta Health Services and to seek their direction. They will guide us as to whether self-isolation is required or a testing is required, and these types of things are changing all the time. So we're not writing out in detail what you should follow. We're saying you need to contact Alberta Health Services and follow what they do. Once you've followed what they've done and Alberta Health Services is content and says yes, you can go back to school, you can go back to work in the case of a staff member, then you have the okay to come back. So it's really their call in a case like this. Well, what then? What happens? Let's say a student is required to self-isolate, but let's say they're not sick and they're feeling fine, but they do need to stay at home for a while. And this could be for a couple reasons. It could be that they came in contact with someone who has corona, or it could be that they tested positive, but they're asymptomatic and they're feeling fine. There's no reason why they couldn't get their schoolwork done, but because of self-isolation, they aren't allowed yet to go back to school. Well, certainly we want to be there for those students, and we want to support them during this time and help them in their learning. So we will do everything we can to help them continue in their learning while they are away from school. And definitely technology plays a role in that, just like it did under the remote learning situation. Starting this year, every teacher will be equipped with technology that will allow them to be able to record their various lessons and post them online, say using Google Classroom. So then that student would be able to watch that lesson just as it was taught to the other students in the room and be able to follow along and still learn and not fall behind. And that teacher would also be able to contact that student online and talk with them and see their work using Google Classroom as well. So by no means are these students being left behind. If they are feeling well and able to work, then we want them to continue working during that time, and we'll do what we can in each and every situation to make that happen. I've had a few parents ask me, will we be offering different streams? Okay, so the government has says you're going back to an in-class setting, scenario one, but will you be offering a remote learning stream? And the short answer is really no, not at this time. We really don't have the resources to be able to do that. Teaching in an in-class situation, that's a full-time job. Teaching in a remote learning situation, that is also a full-time job. And if you talk to our teachers, the last 3 months of school, they were working hard. Some of them put in longer hours in remote learning situations than they did in the regular in-classroom situation. So we can't expect our teachers to do this full-time job and that full-time job and to do it well. It's just not fair to them. We also really don't have the resources, being a small school, where we can just employ a whole other set of teachers, one for each grade, where they can teach remote learning. The funding just isn't there for that. So as a small school, we're just not able to offer two different streams to run simultaneously. Now, I know some of the bigger school divisions are offering, or at least looking at different options. Parkland School Division has released some information lately, and I think Evergreen is talking about that, although they haven't released any specific information on it. So those bigger school divisions are able to take some of their teachers and reallocate them toward remote learning. But that's in a bigger system that can accommodate that. We're a small school. That's what makes us special and wonderful. But it also does have some limitations in cases like this. So unfortunately, we just aren't able to offer a remote learning stream. This type of thing we can do where a student is away. But that here it's more, for a temporary time. And it may be a long period of time, but it's still meant to be temporary. Under this situation, you have, I think, parents that are looking for the full year of remote learning. And that's a whole different thing together. Well, maybe it's time to wrap this up. We are really looking forward to next year. We're looking forward to the students coming back. We really miss these guys. We get into teaching because we love interacting with students, and we missed being able to do that during the last 3 months of school in a very personal way. So we are looking forward to their return. It's going to be a little bit different, but we look forward to all the great learning and the fun and the interactions that will go on even under these strange circumstances. Until then, we keep just prepping and getting ready for next year. And I'll put out another one of these videos probably at the beginning of next week, just talking about some of those first few days, the Meet the Teacher night. First day of school. We usually have a parent information night. I'll post some information about that in terms of what those might look like for this year and what you can expect. So we'll watch for that. Well, that's it. Stay safe, everyone. Take care, and God bless you.